students, very happy to meet you all again in grade 12 economics. In the previous class we discussed various things about equilibrium, right? Equilibrium price, equilibrium determination of equilibrium income and output. Okay, we have discussed various things about consumption, how in graphical method, how do you talk about the consumption function, how do you represent graphically the consumption function and the investment function. Then we spoke about the aggregate demand, graphical representation of the aggregate demand and supply side of macroeconomic equilibrium. How do you represent it graphically? Then finally we have discussed about the algebraic method. The next topic that we are going to discuss is the effect of an autonomous change in aggregate demand on income and output. That is, autonomous consumption and autonomous investment is there, right? How a change in these two things are going to affect the income and output is what we are going to discuss. Before going on further, I spoke about parallel shift and parametric shift in the previous session. So I just wanted to give a quick explanation of what is at both. So when you have a change in the intercept, okay, in the consumption function, there is a parallel slope. So you can see that there is a change in the intercept. From 0 to C dash there is a separate intercept, and from 0 to C dash 1 there is another intercept. So when there is a change in the consumption itself, when it increase or decrease, the intercept changes and the slope becomes parallel. You can find a parallel slope. Such a curve is called as such a shift is called a parallel shift. So you can find the change in the intercept and in the slope itself. You will find a parallel slope. It is called a parallel shift. Whereas what is parametric shift? The intercept will be the same. Only the slope will be different. And it won't be a parallel slope. Okay, from the same intercept you will have another slope when there is a change, and that is called as a parametric shift. What is a parallel shift? There is a change in the intercept even, whereas in parametric shift you don't have a change in the intercept. Okay, that is the difference between parallel shift and parametric shift. Now let us discuss about what are the changes. Okay, effect of autonomous change in aggregate demand and income and output. So what are the changes basically? Because of two changes it happens. It can happen either or, like in one situation or a combination of both situations. What is the first situation? A change in consumption. Okay, a change in consumption can affect it separately, or it can do it with a change in investment. Right. Now there is a change in consumption. We know there are two things. We have C dash, the autonomous consumption, and we have the small c of y, which is called the induced consumption. Based on the income level, it changes. This is whatever income it is, there is no change in the consumption. It stays the same. Then it is called as autonomous consumption. But so far we were discussing about one important point, that in investment expenditure, we don't have a change. We have kept it in this particular model. We are studying it in the same thing, that is the investment. Whatever is the income, there is no relationship between the investment and the change in income. They are both, like, it goes on without any difference with the point of income is what we have studied in investment. But still, that is investment expenditure is autonomous is what we were discussing. But still, is there a possibility of change in investment? Yes, there is a possibility of change in investment. Even though it does not rely on the income or profit, it relies on some other things like availability of credit. Okay, so there are a number of variables other than income which will change the investment expenditure, which can affect investment. So one important factor is the easy availability of credit. When banks are interested, when credit facilities are given, to procure more, you go for more of buying, more of investing. So when there is a good agricultural credit given, the agriculturists, the farmers will be interested to, do more of agriculture sector. Right, so easy availability of credit and the low interest rate. Credit availability is there, and further what we can find? We can find the interest rate. So the interest rate is the cost of investable funds, and at higher interest rates firms tend to do a lower investment. It can be both, can be more of investment or less investment. That itself is change in investment only. So easy credit facilities will make you to invest more, whereas the interest, if it is high, then people, the investors, the firms, they tend to go for lesser investment. So we are going to have a small example through which we are going to study further. What is given here for you? The consumption expenditure, that is capital C, is given as 40 plus 0.8y. This is what? The small c's value. Okay, and I is given as 10. With the aggregate demand, what formula did you find with the help of that? Y is equal to, what did we find? C dash plus I dash by 1 minus C. Right, that is what we found. This is what we calculated. So with this help, we are going to find the next thing. 40, okay, plus 10 by 1 minus 0.8, which will become 50 by 0.2, where you will have 200 and y, you will get the supply as y is equal to 250. That is the aggregate demand, and the supply should be of this much equal. So what comes out in this case, the equilibrium income obtained by this equation comes out to be 250. What is the equilibrium income that you are finding? Y stands for income also as well as output also. So here in this case you are taking it as income. It comes to be 250 by finding with this formula, with the formula of y is equal to aggregate demand. Now let investment rise to 20. Investment we have kept as 10. When you are increasing it by 20, the values change. First we will study this point, how it is graphically represented. Then we will increase it by 20. Fine. Now what is this? When autonomous investment increases, the AD1 line, this AD1 aggregate demand is there, no? That is this value, 250's value. Okay, next thing what you are doing, instead of 10 you are going to have it as 20. In that case, what will you find? Divided by 1 minus C. So you will get 40 plus 20 by 1 minus 0.8, 60 by 0.2. So you will get 300. Okay, this is kept as AD1, Y1. This is kept as AD2 and Y2. So when it increases, AD1 is here and it increases parallel to AD2. This is 250's one and this is 300's one. So what happens? Autonomous investment increases. When the investment increases by value of 10, the AD1 line shifts in parallel upwards because it is increased. Investment increase. Investment decrease means it will fall down. Right, children? So it parallelly increases to AD2. The value of aggregate demand of output, that is Y1 dash. With this, you find Y1, that is AD2's curve. Okay, which is greater than the value of output. Y1 is equal to Y1 E1. This is the equilibrium price, children. Where is E1? Here we have E1. Okay. AD1 is aggregate demands value, and that particular thing is mentioned in this row. So the demand and here the supply. So for this first equation is there, no first value when the investment was kept as 10. This is the AD1, and here you have the E1, which is the equilibrium income. What is the equilibrium income there? Y1 is the equilibrium income there. When AD2 increases, what happens? Everything has to change. Where you have a new slope A22, okay? There you have to find another equilibrium E2, and whatever line corresponds to that particular point in the income axis, that will become your new equilibrium income. Okay, so there is a change. See, from here to here there is a change. And that only is given to you in a paragraph format. nothing else. Okay, so what is it? E1 is no longer represents. When the investment changes, E1 fails. The equilibrium fails. You have to find a new equilibrium. That is why you have gone for a new curve where it has met with the 45-degree line. Which point is marked as equilibrium for you? Where this demand slope is there, right? That means this 45-degree slope. That point is marked as equilibrium 1. When the demand increases, when the investment increases, the demand also increases, and where it should change to equilibrium 2. So if you see, the same 45-degree slope meets the A2 slope here. That is why this is marked as E2. Okay, and what happens next? You have found a new equilibrium and you have found a new income level also. So Y2 will become the new income. Fine. So the new equilibrium values of output and aggregate demand are Y2 and A22 respectively. So the new equilibrium levels are what? This is your aggregate supply or your income, and this is your aggregate demand. This is how you find it. First, what you do? First you draw the slopes, and then the meeting point will be marked as equilibrium. The corresponding vertical axis is marked as aggregate demand, and the corresponding horizontal axis is marked as income, equilibrium. Fine. So an initial increment in the autonomous expenditure seems to have a multiplier on the equilibrium values of aggregate demand. When we have this, when it increases by 10, everything changes and there is an increase in everything. Okay, there is a multiplying value which we are going to discuss next, which is called as the multiplier mechanism. So what does it do? An initial increment in the autonomous expenditure, what does it lead to? It seems to have a multiplier on the equilibrium values of aggregate demand and output. So what happens? When the autonomous increment is there, it multiplies the values of the aggregate demand. It increases the aggregate demand and it increases the aggregate outputs value. What are we going to do next? We are going to discuss the multiplier mechanism. So what is the effect of an autonomous change in the aggregate demand and income and output? So there might be two reasons. You can, it happens like any one becomes it, gives the change, or a combination of both might also happen. What is the one thing? Change in consumption. So here you have two, autonomous consumption and induced consumption. Whereas change in investment, we always keep it as a particular expenditure. Whatever income it is, there is no change in the investment expenditure. The same amount is incurred for investment every year is what we have discussed so far. But what are we going to understand now? There are some other factors which might influence the change in investment. Right? What are the some other factors that might influence the change? The other factors are when we have easy credit availabilities or easy credit facilities, then we go for investment, higher investment. The firms can invest high. Second thing, when the interest rates are more, then the firms can go for lower investment. So these reasons, these are not related to the income. Of course, they are not related with income, but still they too have an effect in inducing a change in the investment expenditure. So how it changes? We have found it through a particular value. Now if you see the difference, 300 minus 250 will become 50. So how it is multiplied? By value of 50. It is increased by value of 50. So when we have this particular y, we have this income, what did we do? We drew first the 45-degree slope. Always we have this 45-degree slope. Then we drew the A1 value, A1 slope. That is the aggregate demand is equal to autonomous expenditure plus the C of y. When you have this slope, wherever it meets with the 45-degree slope, that point is called as the equilibrium. Okay, you have found the equilibrium. Then with the help of the equilibrium, you mark the aggregate demand and the income or output. You have marked it. That is marked as AD1 and Y1. What do you do next? There is an increase Because of that, we draw another one, A2 slope, which is a new investment expenditure. When it happens, why are we drawing it? To find the new equilibrium. Wherever it meets with the 45-degree slope, that is marked as E2. With the basis of that particular E2, we find AD2 and Y2. Okay, new values of aggregate demand and output are found. What is another thing? What is the delta I dash? This is the investment incurred here. Fine children, this is what this entire graphical representation is given about. This says that there is an initial autonomous increment of 10. Okay, with this initial autonomous increment, there is a multiplying of values in what? Aggregate demand and output. There is a change in these values. When there is an increment, there is a change in the aggregate demands values and outputs value. Fine children. So what are we going to do next? How does it increase? How does it multiply? So we are going to study it through the multiplier mechanism. Through what? The multiplier mechanism. Children, related to this lesson, this chapter, it might look small, but still I am handling part by part for you. So go through all the things that we are discussing. Refer the graphs that we have drawn. See how related it is. Okay, how each equation is related with another equation. It is not the first point we have learnt about autonomous consumption, we forget it. No, it is given for you to continue throughout the chapter. Ex ante measure and ex post measure, you have to remember it throughout the chapter. Okay, it should always stay in your memory. That is why I'm taking it slow, going slow and handling it in depth. So even though if you are not able to understand, yes, of course, let me know. I'll be more particular about it. Fine. So what are we going to discuss next? The multiplier mechanism. Why are we studying about it? How an autonomous increment in the investment has changed the income and output is what we are going to, demand and output is what we are going to discuss. How it multiplies. Okay. So we saw that previous example, the investment, the autonomous expenditure increased by 10 units and how it changed. Equilibrium income was changed by 50 units from 250 to 300. So the equilibrium income changed by 50 units. How it is applicable? How we are going to find the other equilibrium incomes further? That is what we are going to discuss. So the production of final goods employs factors such as labor, capital, machinery, various things. In the absence of indirect taxes or subsidies, the total value of final goods output is distributed among different factors of production. So here what we are going to do, we are forgetting government sector. So in the absence of indirect taxes and subsidies, whatever we are getting for the particular product, we pay for factors of production. So the total value of final goods and output, the total value of final goods is paid for what? Is paid for factors of production. And then what do? Remaining thing is kept as profit. Okay? Thus the leftover is appropriately called as profit. Because whatever we get, we don't just give it off. We keep something, we pay the factors of payment, the liable thing that we are supposed to pay, and the remaining thing is kept back by the entrepreneur, which is in terms called as profit. So that's the sum total of aggregate factor payments in the economy, national income, is equal to the aggregate value of the output of final goods. That is the sum total of aggregate factor payment, okay, that is called as national income, should be equal to what? Sum total of final output, which is termed as, so the national income should be equal to the GDP is what we are going to say. So here in the above example, what did we do? We have had the output, extra output 10 is distributed among various factors as factor payments, and hence the income of the economy goes up by 10. So what happened? The value, extra value we got 50, right? So that is also given to factors of payments, and what is kept back? The economy goes up by 10. When income increases by 10, consumption expenditure also goes up by 10. So I have 10 rupees extra, means what will I do with that extra 10 rupees? Consumption also will increase, and how it is marked as 0.8, 10. What is this 10? The increase in consumption expenditure is marked as that. Since people send 0.8, that is MPC, fraction of their additional income on consumption. What do? Whatever they have, that is the marginal propensity to consume. Whatever value they get, that is 10 rupees, means out of that 0.8%, they spend the fractional level of 0.8, they spend. So in the next round, the aggregate demand in the economy goes up by this value. When they are ready to spend more, when they are ready to consume more, the demand also increases. Consumption expenditure increases, means what happens? The demand also increases, because we know aggregate demand is the sum total of consumption expenditure and investment expenditure. So when people are ready to consume more, of course the demand also increases. So what does the firm have to do? The firm has to increase its production by 10 more units. When 10 more units is invested, what happens? Again people will get 10 more units of income. Again they'll go for more of consumption. Again the demand will increase. When the demand increases by 10 more units, again the firm has to produce. So it will go round after round and it multiplies. Okay, that is why it is called as a multiplier mechanism. This process goes on round after round with producers increasing their output to clear the excess demand in each round. So what happens? Whenever the investment is increased, it will increase the income. When the income is increased, consumption increases. Consumption increases, the demand increases. Demand increases, the investment increases. See how it happens? The enormous increment in investment is there, which leads in income increase. Okay, when income increases, it will lead to the consumption increase. When consumption increases, the aggregate demand will increase. When demand increases, they have to produce more. So again investment will be increased. When investment increases, again income will increase. When income increases, again consumption will increase. So it will go after round, and each time the producer should go for more investment, more production to meet the excess demand. So that makes it a multiplier mechanism, and consumers spending a part of their additional income from this extra production on consumption items, thereby creating further excess. So every time their income increases, they go for more consumption. More consumption, more aggregate demand. More aggregate demand, more of production again to meet the excess demand. So it is a circular process where it keeps on going. Okay, that's what is given for you in a tabular column. In the first round, if you say the consumption was kept as 0, the aggregate demand was kept as 10, which was an autonomous increment. So they need for 10. So the consumption was 0, the demand was 10, so output also was 10. So next time what happens? The consumption also increases by what value? 0.8 into 10. So what happens to the demand? It becomes the same. For that, demand will happen. What they have to do? They have to increase more. The output is given as 0.8 0.8 into 10. When it happens, it will become double of the value. Then it will multiply into triple, then 4 times. It goes on from rounds to rounds like this till infinite values it goes on. So how do you find it out? What is the multiplying factor, or how much is the change in the income? How will you find it out? By finding it in this formula. See, the autonomous increment given here is 10 by 1 minus the C value 0.8, through which you get 50. So what do you understand by this? The increment in equilibrium value of total output thus exceeds the initial increment. First time it was only 10. Next time it is 0.8 into 10. Next time it is 0.8 squared into 10. So it increases each round. Okay, exceeds the initial increment in autonomous expenditure. The ratio of total increment in equilibrium value of final goods output to the initial increment in autonomous expenditure is called the investment multiplier. So how will you explain the investment multiplier? Investment multiplier. How do you find it out? Ratio of what? The ratio of total increment in equilibrium value of ratio of total increment in equilibrium value of final output. Okay, final goods output to the initial increment. To the initial increment in the equilibrium value of final goods output. Fine, this is called the investment multiplier. So 10 and 0.8 represents the value of delta I dash is equal to delta A dash and NPC. So you are going to apply it in the formula and you are finding what is going to be the saving. So where delta Y is the total increment. Okay, it is the total increment in final goods output, and C is equal to MPC. Observe that the size of the multiplier depends on the value of C. If this changes, this value also will change. What is that term to be? You found the total increment. Okay, you have found the total increase in the value of output goods. That is the total increment is found how? Based on these things, based on C, mostly upon C. As C becomes larger, the multiplier increases. Fine, children. So what is the multiplier mechanism about? It is the investment multiplier. It is the ratio of total increment in the equilibrium value of final goods to the initial increment in the equilibrium value of final goods. We have seen, right, in the aggregate demand, initial increment was only 10, but the next round it became 0.8 into 10. Next round it became 0.8 squared into 10. So it was multiplied, so that there was a change in the income. From 250 it got increased to 300. The equilibrium price change, the equilibrium demand change, the equilibrium income also change. So this is how there is a change. The autonomous change will bring a change in the income and output. Okay, what did we discuss so far? An effect of autonomous change in the aggregate demand on income and output. How an autonomous change will affect the income and output is what we have discussed so far, and in that only we discussed about the multiplier mechanism. It is concerned entirely with the investment function, not with the consumption function. Already we have two things in consumption function which are called as autonomous consumption and investment consumption. Right, children? In investment consumption, autonomous consumption and induced consumption. In investment function only we discussed about two reasons where it does not depend on the income. That is when easy credit facilities are there, or it depends on the rate of interest. There is a possibility of increase in the investment or decrease in the investment. We have had an example where there was an autonomous increment in the investment, and because of that we saw how they paid the factor of production, and that increased the income of people, that increased consumption. When consumption was more, aggregate demand was more, and when demand was more, they have to produce, the firms had to produce extra, okay, to meet the excess demand, and so it keeps on multiplying round after round. That is, the firms keep on producing an excess output to meet the excess demand, because it should be equal, right children? So only one more topic is left over in this chapter, which is called the paradox of thrift. It's a very simple topic, but still so far we have studied more in detail. I want you to go through all of these things first, understand it clearly. Then in the next session we will see about paradox of thrift, and we will finish the chapter number 4. Okay children, kindly answer your worksheets. Try to understand the topic. If you are not able to understand the topic, yes, of course, feel free to reach me out and get your doubts clarified. Right children, thank you, and may all have a wonderful day today.